Hi guys, so I thought I'd post an update since I haven't really updated in a while. And I mean, I don't know if anybody will watch this, but I think it's just good to have for um, my own memories and records and for my kids. So a few days ago, I woke up at 1 a.m. and I was having some really, really bad pain right here, like right below where my ribs meet. And I think it's called the epigastric area. And it was just really, really painful. I described it to like the nurse, like labor pains, but in my upper abdomen. Um, so I woke up and I told Johnny that I wasn't feeling well and I felt like I needed to go to the ER. So he took me and the kids, they were sleeping. So that was really, it's hard having kids and having a medical emergency. But he packed the kids up and drove me to the ER. And when I went in, they did an EKG to make sure there was nothing wrong with my heart. And the EKG turned up normal and the pain had gone away. So the pain lasted maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, and when it went away, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm fine now. So the doctor, offered to do a blood test, but I was like, oh, I think I might be okay. So the doctor, chalked it up to being heartburn and gave me a heartburn pill. So I took that and went home. And then I went to sleep and I woke up again at 6 a.m. and I just had this excruciating pain in the same area. It was so bad. I could not talk. I could not focus on anything but the pain. I was just trying to find some relief, but there was no relief. I was moaning, and Johnny woke up, and I told him, call 911. I just called 911. I couldn't explain myself. I was just really in pain. And so he called for an ambulance, and they got here pretty quick, maybe 5 minutes. And I was just laying in bed and so scared that something was wrong with me. And so the paramedics came in and they did another EKG test and everything was fine. And they loaded me up on the ambulance and took me to that hospital again. And Johnny eventually met me there, but this time the physician's assistant came in and checked on me, and they actually ordered for me to go get an ultrasound of my belly, because as he was palpating, is it palpating or palpitating? As he was just touching my abdomen, he pressed down under my right rib and there was some dull pain there, so he ordered that ultrasound. And when they did the ultrasound, they found that my gallbladder was inflamed. And so they ordered me to go in for the HIDA scan. And I just had to wait around for a while until I had a hospital room. And so they admitted me, and it was all really fast. I went in and did the HIDA scan, and so they injected me with some radioactive tracer. And when they did that, they couldn't find my gallbladder, or it wouldn't show up on the screen. And they also tried to do the morphine injection, and that didn't show anything either. So they decided to just take me into surgery. I was all alone in the hospital. It was 3 p.m. by this time, and the nurse comes in and says, all right, the surgeon wants you to go into surgery at 3:30. And I was so scared. I've never had a surgery before, so I was very nervous. When the nurse came back in again a few minutes later, I was crying, and she was like, are you okay? Are you nervous? And I said, yes, I'm nervous. It's my first surgery. And she told me that her friend recently got the same surgery from the same doctor, and she's doing great. So that kind of gave me some relief, reassured me a bit. So I was so sad. I was so scared. I called Johnny. I called my mom. I told them, I love them. And, I was just in shock because I didn't know, like, do I have an option? Do I get to say whether or not I get the surgery? But, you know, I knew it was what was best, what the doctor thought was best. So I ended up getting wheeled in to prep for surgery, and all the nurses and staff were so nice, and the anesthesiologist was really funny and nice, and he injected me with something that got me all loopy, and as they were wheeling me in, I just, you know, I don't remember anything after, you know, he injected me with that whatever it was. And I woke up, I was told that the surgery lasts maybe 30 minutes, maybe a little more, but it was a quick surgery, and they ended up making 5 incisions in my abdomen. And so I woke up super groggy. I think my first memory was maybe being wheeled into my hospital room. And Johnny told me that when he had arrived at the hospital, he was really nervous because, you know, I told him it was a very quick surgery, but when he got there around 6 or 7, I wasn't in the room, and it was just like my jewelry and my phone, and he was like, uh-oh, I hope everything's okay. But, you know, they had just kept me in the, like, post-op, like, recovery room, so I was just recovering, and they said I was doing well, so he finally got some relief because he was a little scared. And so I was really groggy, and Johnny was making fun of me after, you know, I recovered, or after a couple of days. He told me that when I was waking up, they would call my name, and I was like super groggy that, you know, I would be asleep, and then they'd say my name, and I'd be like, and then I would go back to sleep, and they would just do that a few times, and that was kind of funny to hear. But yeah, it was a very quick experience. They released me just like as soon as they brought me back into my room, I was released to go home, which is crazy. I didn't expect to go home that day. I thought I was going to at least stay one night, but I guess the recovery is a lot easier than a lot of other surgeries, so they sent me home. And so they took me down in a wheelchair. Johnny helped me in the car, and when we got home, I just knocked out. I was so tired, and I slept for like the rest of the day. And when I woke up I think that night, I, you know, was a little more aware, and I felt some pain in my tummy, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but definitely very sore. And I didn't do much else that night. I went back to sleep. I couldn't really eat. He got me some chicken noodle soup. But I just didn't have an appetite. I took like one sip, and then I was like back to sleep. And I haven't had much of an appetite since then. I've eaten a little bit here and there, but they say to not eat too many flavorful foods. No spicy, no oily, greasy things. Dairy's off limits, at least for a couple of weeks. Although even with the gallbladder removal, you shouldn't really eat a lot of those types of food anyway. And it really hurts to cough and laugh, so it's just been rough. But yeah, I am feeling better now. I lost like 4 pounds. I weighed myself this morning, and I was 122. So I've definitely lost some weight, and my appetite's not 100% back yet, and I'm just scared to, you know, eat anything I'm not supposed to eat, because I had a bite of something spicy the other day, and I was just bloated the rest of the night, and I just didn't feel well. So, I mean, the recovery has been okay. I was nauseous for a while. I took some, they prescribed Percocet, and I did use that for the first couple of days, but I stopped using it after 2 days when I was able to breastfeed again, because I could breastfeed with a radioactive tracer in me for 2 days. So I ended up stopping that and just resumed breastfeeding again, because that was really hard, having to pump and recover at the same time. But even breastfeeding is hard too, because, you know, the baby's all over my tummy, and I'm not really supposed to have any pressure on it or lift anything heavy. So it's been a little rough with her like kicking my stomach, and, you know, just, she doesn't know what's going on. So yeah, I mean, it's been better than I expected, because I was super scared of, you know, having surgery, just because I didn't know how painful it would be, and how long the recovery would take, but I went into the hospital Wednesday night. I think I had the surgery Thursday, and I've been home ever since, and it's been, let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday's been 4 days, so, yeah, and I'm feeling okay. Johnny went back to work, and I've had the kids to myself, and it hasn't been too bad. Let me see if I can show you my scars. Yeah. So there's the one on my belly button. Got one over here and one over there. I guess a lot of these, so this, I think this is where they took out the gallbladder. And, yeah, so it's not too bad. My tummy has been pretty swollen, so it looks kind of weird right now, especially my belly button. It looks like curved in. But yeah, it's not as bad as I was expecting, so very, very quick, easy, and I mean, it was scary just to think that, you know, I didn't know what was going on at the time when I was feeling those pains, so I'm glad it wasn't anything more serious. I know my mom had her gallbladder out many years ago, so I don't know if this could be like a genetic thing where I'm predisposed to having gallbladder issues, but I know my sister also went to the hospital a couple times for her gallbladder. So, I mean, I'm glad it's not anything too serious and that, you know, I could live and be fine without it. So, I mean, it's a best case scenario, I would say. I'm just glad that they figured out what it was, because that was just the most excruciating pain I've ever been in. It was worse than, you know, going into labor. Although I did get the epidural, so I don't know if the labor pains would have been worse if I had not gotten the epidural. So it's probably comparable to labor, but it was just so bad, and I was just so scared. But I'm just glad it wasn't anything worse, because, you know, it's so scary, especially when you have two little ones. Gotta make sure she's all right. Oh. So, yeah, it was very scary, but I'm glad everything worked out. And I feel so bad because Olivia was super worried about me, and she, you know, Johnny was great taking care of the kids while I was in the hospital, but Olivia asked me the other day, she said, "Mom, are you gonna die?" And I said, "No, not yet. I have a long life to live," you know. I told her that I'm not gonna die till I'm old, hopefully, and she just said, "I don't want you to die," and I was just so sad. And, you know, I love my girls, and I, you know, hope to be here until they're old and gray, you know, and they have their own children, and that's the goal. But you never know what, you know, life will, you know, bring you. So I'm just glad that I'm still here and that I get to raise my kids, and it's been a crazy week, I can tell you that much. Yeah,